This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
Welcome to Paddle and Fin, an authentic podcast of all things kayak fishing. We're your hosts are a bunch of long-time fishermen who decided to get in the kayak fishing world, and guess what? They're taking you along for the ride. So buckle in and welcome to Paddle and Fin.
Hello and welcome back to Off the Water. I'm your host JP, and today we have a very, very special guest for you. The one, the only, Mr. Sam Jones. Sam Jones in the house. What's up, man?
What's going on? What's going on, man? It's been a while.
It has. How have you been?
Crazy busy, man. Crazy busy. So it's been an odd year. Everything that I had planned and scheduled for this year has been flipped on its head and side and backwards and turned around and thrown around and here we are now. It's gosh, almost July. I can't believe that, but yeah, it's just been busy, man. A lot of new things in my life and for me and my family, dealing with that, and trying to fish as much as I can this season. So obviously I haven't been on the podcast in a while. Been kind of in the background on that as I try and get things set up here and get things moving. I'm excited to get back in the mix of things and be recording with you today, though. So that's pretty exciting.
I'm glad to have you, man, and congratulations on some new steps in life.
Yeah.
We have home, and we also have the new Bassin van coming up.
That's right. Yeah, I just announced that this week. I've been needing a new vehicle for a long time. I'm not picky about vehicles. A lot of people know me for the car topping on the old beat up Impala. The Impala was a family ride for a while, and then it became my daily driver. Then it became the Bassin Mobile. Beat up, tore up, made noises that it shouldn't make, but it ran and it got me where I needed to go. But it was time. It was starting to get those miles on it and was starting to need some new parts, and I made a decision to go get something. But I've been struggling for a long time, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. Struggling between truck, van, or SUV. And I went looking earlier this week, and I found a van and started thinking about it and decided to get a Dodge Caravan, 2019 Dodge Caravan. It's going to be perfect for the family. I've got the little ones I got to haul around. It's going to be perfect for road trips, but it's going to be great for fishing, man. I'm gonna turn it into a little camper, basically. Going to put a removable bed with storage in it on one side, and then I'll have all my other storage on the other side. All the seats stow away, so it's just completely flat. Gives me a ton of space. It's like a 4x8 sheet of plywood would fit in there. So I'll be able to put a little AC unit in there, put a cooler in there, sleep, all my gear, getting a tow package put on it next week. And then I'm going to rig a trailer up. So I've already got one. I just need to go get it set up for hauling kayaks. And got some other mods and things like that we're going to do. So you'll be able to follow all that if you want to. I set up a little Instagram for it, and it's at the Bassin Van. So that's its new name.
Geez.
Yeah, the Bassin Van. Hashtag the Bassin Van. So we'll get it decaled up and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll be easy to find now.
I think there's only one requirement to this from your wife, and that was you're able to fit groceries inside there when you're not fishing, right? As long as you can meet the middle. All right.
Exactly. No, even my wife was giving me crap about buying a minivan, but she sees it now that I have it and it's here, and she's seen what my plans are. And it's not going to look like your typical minivan when it's all said and done. So I'm gonna the stuff that I'm going to be doing to the top of this thing is going to be ridiculous, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm excited about it.
Maybe we should start a GoFundMe for you and then get a lift so it can be an overland van.
That would be sweet. DZ, if you're listening, or any other anyone else that wants to help with that, I would love to have an overland minivan set up. That would be pretty cool. So it is going to look somewhat overlandish when it's done, though. So yeah, follow along. It should be fun.
You're hearing it first here on the podcast.
Right.
Follow along, the Bassin Band.
The Bassin Band. Yep.
Well, Sam, let's for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're fishing out of, and how long you've been kayak fishing, the like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, for those that don't know me, I have been in the world of fishing for as long as I can remember. I've been obsessed with the sport of competitive bass fishing since I was 14. Started out in the boat world. Really started on the bank in a creek and around local campground ponds and stuff like that. But then quickly got into some clubs where I was fishing out of the back of guys' boats and hanging out with buddies and fishing team tournaments and stuff like that. And then I got in a wreck, totaled my back. I mean, I couldn't get on a boat or anything like that. Sold the boat that I had at the time, and really stayed off the water for a while. Moved to Nashville, and I met Chad Hoover. We lived like down the street from each other, and I saw him all the time at the gas station that I stopped at before work and that he stopped at in the morning to get coffee. And that's kind of where I got introduced to this kayak bass fishing thing. I continued to follow it. We moved out to Arizona, my wife and I did, and out there, had a family member who had access to a little pedal boat and a kayak, and I'd get out in those on the little ponds, and I just fell in love with it, the whole idea of it. So when I moved back to Indiana, it wasn't long after being back in Indiana, I got my first kayak, which was a SS127 Bonafide. I still have it. And started tournament fishing from the kayak stuff online, fishing with a group called MIHO, which is Michigan, Ohio Kayak Anglers. That was just getting started at that time. They had some online events and really enjoyed it. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Last year was my first real season fishing KBF Trail Series or anything like that. Had a really good time. And then this year, had all the intentions of fishing full time, the Pro Tour Trail, possibly some Hobie events, and then all the bass stuff. And then of course, COVID happens and it changes everything. So this year is kind of just a transitional year, I think, just prepping for next year and getting the family situated. We just moved, got a new place and getting situated here and all that. So excited about what the future brings. Just got a new Slayer as well, Slayer Max 12.5 Propel. So new kayak, nice. New ride, new house. It's time to go fishing, right?
That's right, man. You spent it, now you might as well enjoy it.
There you go. Exactly.
And you know what? You hit it on the head about a transition period for everybody. This whole COVID stuff, I had all intentions on fishing more higher profile tournaments this year as well. For those who know my schedule, I have a pretty flexible schedule to do it. But with the uncertainty of knowing and trying to make things, in terms of getting the days off to do everything, you plan this out way ahead of time. And with the COVID, and everything that happened with that, cancellation of tournaments, reschedule, everything's starting to pop up now. Some events that were scheduled already are still holding true, but there's a lot that were canceled or rescheduled where now you're trying to play catch up with everything from the beginning of the season. And to be able to do it or not, is another thing. So my focus actually has turned around this year, and I'm actually really trying to hone in on a lot more of my local lakes, or in my local lakes, really trying to understand, my electronics better. Um, back to the basics, man. Just remember, because here's the thing: when we're in a tournament mode, we have to, our minds are going 10 million miles per hour. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Does this need to happen? Does this need to happen? Which are all factors that are played in. But when you go back to your roots and what you know and what will work and what doesn't work, this is really helping you decipher to build up your confidence for when you do go into the tournament scenario. There's so many different lures out there on the market and so many different techniques. If you have confidence in one and you build on that confidence, that's going to get you a lot further than, let's say I'm just going to wing it and throw a, no pun intended to Ryan Milford, I'm just going to throw a whopper plopper and see if it works, because, I've never thrown one and I want to, I've heard people catch fish off it. But if you're not practicing with that lure, or, if you're not, right, putting your confidence in it, it's hard to say if it's going to work in a tournament setting. So this time that we've had off from the tournaments, I've been trying all different techniques and going back to the techniques I know, and it's really been boosting how I've been feeling about when it comes to tournament time, on how to find fish, what lures to use, and especially understanding my electronics more. So
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's so important, and that's one thing that I try and I have a lot of, just because of what I do with running pro staffs and social media for different businesses and stuff. I have a lot of people that reach out to me that are getting into the sport, or they're interested in kayak fishing or fishing in general. A lot of young anglers that I talk to on a daily basis, and a lot of times that, that's one of the things that comes up that I see a lot, is people just getting zoned in on one thing and not really experimenting and taking the time to practice. Like, everyone wants to always go out and catch fish, and while that, yes, is fun, and that's the essence of the sport, is going out and finding and catching fish, like, sometimes the most valuable trips are the ones where you don't catch fish, where you're just out there learning, the lay of the land, and learning where fish set up and how they set up. And it's like, it's so important to take the time. Like, you get out there and you get so rushed, right? Mm-hmm. In a tournament setting, that's okay, is to be kind of in that higher gear. But when you're practicing or just fun fishing, it's really important to, like, slow down and pay attention to what's going on. Why did you catch a fish there? Why is it on the point? Where on the point was it? Where did you get bit? You hear a guy a lot of times say, well, I'm getting bit in 20 foot of water. I'm getting bit in 20. No, you weren't getting, your boat may have been sitting in 20 foot of water, but where was your lure in the retrieve? How often do you catch a fish and then go side scan and graph right where you caught it to understand, why was that fish there? Was there a log there, a stick there? I almost always have a heavy bait tied on, and I'll catch a fish, and I generally will go and look and drag something and try and understand, because the fish is there for a reason, unless it's just a random, catch, where they're roaming and feeding. But when fish are staged up on stuff, like, it's so important to take the time to understand what's going on, take those mental notes, or write it down, or use an app like Angler, something, because it's going to play. I mean, when you talk to, and how many times have we done this, right, on Paddle and Fin, where we've had the sticks, the big names, and other podcasts too. They have the big names on, the guys who are always consistently at the top, and you talk to them, and what is the key? And it's always time, and it's always, just their overall understanding of, the techniques and where fish set up and all that. And you can only gain that if you go out and you study it. If you're just going to go out there and throw a Cinco around the bank and not pay attention to anything, you're really not going to learn much.
Not at all. So that, it's funny you say that, because as we're leading to this, the whole topic of today's show is we're talking about fishing in Indiana, and specifically our KBF event coming up at Lake Monroe. Your home
Yeah.
favorite lake.
Bro, I
Yeah,
can't
buddy.
tell you, man. I am so pumped for this. I have been asking for this and talking about this for, I think, 2 years now. Chad was at the Indianapolis Boat Sport and Travel Show, and I brought this up with him, and he saw the overwhelming support and how huge the kayak fishing community was here in Indiana. And I'm not saying that's what led to it, but I think it's what led to this event being here. And man, am I pumped up for it. I'm so excited, and I've been thinking about it so much. By the time it gets here, I'm probably going to be so overwhelmed that I'm just going to completely flop. But that's okay because I'll still have a really good time.
I got my money on you, because here's the thing, what we just talked about. If anybody follows Sam on his social media pages, he's not shy about it. This is where I'm at today. This is what we're doing. And exactly that practice of what you're doing to do up until tournament time is key. And for the one, I mean, you've been out there grinding nationwide, and we fished many of tournaments together. We've shared rooms, we traveled companions. I mean, we've done it together. And for this, I hope, sincerely in my heart, I hope this is, you've always been the bridesmaid. I hope this is your wedding day on your home lake. I'm pulling for you on it. You put the time in, you put the effort, and everything we just talked about. I hope everything opens up for you on, is it July 17th, right?
July 18th
18th,
is the
yep.
first. Yeah, so it's a doubleheader, Saturday, Sunday, and in addition to that, there's a ton of local tournaments. Well, not a ton. There's 2 other local tournaments going on as well. Grassroots Bass Yakking is having an event on Monroe that week, and so is SIAC, my home club, Southern Indiana Yak Anglers Club. So there's you can like triple, quadruple down on this thing, which is really cool. Thanks a lot for obviously all those kind words, and I hope to be very competitive in this event. Obviously, it won't, I only set a couple goals for this year, and that was one of them, was to get out there and have an opportunity to win on Monroe, my home lake, my favorite lake in the state of Indiana. But and then of course with them having 2 events, that's awesome. My local club having an event, going towards Angler of the Year and all that. It's great for me. So I hope I have a big event. And I've had a lot of people say similar things to me, like, you're my favorite, Sam's going to crush it, that sort of thing. And that's just because everyone's seen how much time I put out there, right? But here's the thing. People need to understand. There are some major hammers on Monroe, and I've had my bad days on Monroe as well. So this is not some Sam's gonna go out and knock it out of the park thing. It really isn't. Steve Martin, killer angler, great on Monroe. He's had some bad luck this year and ran into some problems where he's not done what he is capable of doing out there. So he's one to watch out for. I know he's going to put the time on the water. Jason Cassidy, another great angler, just did well recently in a tournament that we have there. Jim Bailey, another guy. He's come from Tennessee. He's up in Indiana now. He's fishing a lot of the grassroots stuff here in Indiana, doing very well. He's someone to watch out for. And I can go on and on. So in addition to all the amazing hammers that show up at any given Trail Series event and figure out the water, you have a ton of local guys here in Indiana that can put up some numbers. Randy Doris just won last week. Very, very tough fishing for most. He put up over 80 some inches on the lake. It's definitely no sure thing ever. And I expect to have some major competition in this. So I am going to continue to work hard. But I do too hope that I can have some success here, obviously.
That's what, a lot of people who are new to the tournament series of kayak fishing, or those who are following, I get guys at the firehouse asking me all the time, so what does it take to win? And I tell everybody, it's just, there's no X factor to this. You can have, and we've watched it, the sticks, you name them. everyone's had a very, I mean, you can be sitting at the top, the next day you're at the bottom of the chain. And it's because there's like I said, X factor. There's nothing there to say you're going to do better than this guy, because luck just happens to. Skill happens, but luck tends to follow that skill. And if you don't have the luck on your side that day, you definitely can, be on top 1 minute and fall to the bottom of the next.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I believe in luck, to be honest with you. I think there's some level of it. For me, it's decisions. I usually will change the word luck and throw in decisions, because there are so many decisions that have to be made on the water, in any given event, from prior to practice all the way through the end of the event. There's so many major decisions that have to be made. And it really comes down to who makes the right decisions, and then who executes. Every tournament you hear, how many fish I lost. Oh man, I had the bites, but I didn't get them in. I broke them off, and that's the execution part, right? Like, how good were you at setting the hook on time? How good were you at fighting that fish and landing that fish? Man, I see it all the time in the mistakes that are made when I watch people's GoPro videos. And I know I'm making them. I recognize them afterwards because I take the time. When I lose a fish, I think through, what did I do?
Sure.
So I think a lot of it is decision making. I think a lot of it is execution. And that is going to be a big part of this tournament, a huge part of this tournament, because one thing I want everyone to know, there are a lot of lakes that we go to where you have a very small area of the lake that is known to hold big fish and hold quantity, right? There's those little sweet spots that really tend to shine over others, especially on certain lakes. This lake is not one of those, guys. I want everyone to know you can literally launch at any ramp on this body of water and find winning fish and find quantity. It is just one of those lakes where every square inch of this thing holds giants. If you go back and look at the results, we're talking Indiana, right? It's not known for big fish at all. You go back through the results, you're going to see 19s, 20s, 21-inch fish. Just this past weekend, or maybe just a day or two ago, giant bass caught out of Monroe. Unfortunately, I believe that fish was taken and put on a mount, so it's not in there any longer. But any given day, you can see someone pull an 8 to 10 pounder out of Monroe. 6-pounders are there on the regular. 4-pounders multiple times a day. You're gonna come across guys who are catching those. But it'll humble you in a second too, because you'll be on big fish one day in an area, and the next day you can't catch a keeper in there, but you'll catch a little 10 and 12-inch spotted bass, Kentucky spots, and little largemouth. This lake is amazing. It has true big fish potential, and the results show that. I mean, for Indiana to win, you've got to be in the high 80s and 90s, I think, to even be in the money on this event come July 18th.
You guys are hearing it first here. If you guys are thinking about going to this KBF tournament next month, Sam's telling you, man, high 80s, low 90s, that's what's going to take it.
Tourney X is telling you. Sam's not telling you. The results are telling you. I mean, just look at the results from this lake. You go back to April. I actually have it pulled up right here. I won it with 96.75. I lost 2 giant fish that day. Should have had over 100. Second place was 90 inches. Third place was 85. Fourth place was 85. Fifth place was 81. And I know he lost a couple big ones. Sixth place was 81. Seventh place was 78. And then it falls off a little bit from there. Gosh, Steve Martin, bringing him up again. I saw his video. He lost some giants at the boat. So it's just, it's one of those lakes that it can really, when it wants to, can really show out.
Well, that's exciting because and geographically speaking, it's only 3 hours and some change away from being in Chicago. But there's a trend that goes on, and it has to do with our wintertime patterns. So down by you, within that Southern Indiana region, you'll see cold, but you guys don't see snow or freeze over as much as what we do here.
Yeah, it changes depending on the year, but yeah, absolutely.
But it for whatever reasons, it always seems the running joke around here is if you want to catch a quality size bass, you have to go south of I-80.
Yeah.
And it's for some reason it stays true, because the further south you go, the bigger the bass are. And even though it's only 3 hours away, that it's a whole nother, it's like fishing a whole nother region when you go that far.
It's just growing cycles, man. It's just the growing period when you get north like that is just so much shorter. What really helps Monroe out is, it's built in 1960, so it's not super old, but in a reservoir standpoint, it's a fairly old lake now at this point. It's been managed really well. It's the largest lake in Indiana. And we don't have large lakes in Indiana, so our largest lake, Monroe, is just over 10,000 acres. So not very big, honestly. But it is the largest in Indiana, so it gets maintained fairly well. It has its trends. It's gone up and down in the years. There's been times where nobody even wanted to fish out there. Now it's probably one of the best fisheries in the state at this point, where the bite is currently as far as big fish and quantity. Partly, what's interesting about Monroe is it used to have a lot of grass in it, but in recent years we've had really high water in the springs, well above the normal high water area. And so we haven't really had a lot of grass. So this is a very rocky reservoir, huge bluff walls, big chunk rock. I mean, there's just rock everywhere. There's a few red clay banks and stuff like that, but it's mostly just rock. Now on the northern end of the lake, so there's a fast water side and a slow water side that people talk about. So you go on the north end of the lake, the slow water side, which you go through a little bridge culvert area, you get into the north water. And there's some ramps up there too. There's 2 creeks that you can fish on the north water side, or on the slow water side. And it stays a little muddier. You can get some grass in there and some pads, lots of wood and mud banks and stuff like that. But most of the reservoir, the main lake, is just rock and wood. There are trees and stumps and laydowns everywhere, boulders. It's just a really, really cool lake, and it's got a ton of structure. And then the bait fish is just unbelievable. There's so much bait in that lake, and they're huge all the way down to, the tiniest. So, it's a great breeding ground for quality fishing here in the state of Indiana.
That's awesome. It's something you had brought up, being that this is now becoming more of the popular go-to in the lake or in Indiana. How is the boat traffic? Because I know when we did our live bracket, you were having some trouble up there with boaters. What is kind of the expectation for this tournament in terms of us going against not only just bass boats, but pleasure boaters and everything else that's on that lake?
Yeah, a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. It's something I want to talk about because it is something that people need to be mindful of. My answer to this may scare you off, so hang on to the end, okay? And I'll explain something. With it being the largest lake in Indiana, and with it being in Bloomington, Indiana, IU, Indiana University, everyone's heard of that, right? One of the largest colleges, right? Biggest party college there is, probably.
Just in Indiana.
Yeah, so some people are going to probably disagree with that, and Purdue fans and Purdue alumni may disagree with that. But it's one of the biggest colleges, one of the biggest party colleges there is. And Bloomington has all walks of life in it, from billionaires down to your good old boys, right? It's a party lake. It is the party lake in Indiana. Boat traffic's going to be insane. It flat out, it's going to be insane. Now, positive note, July 4th is coming up before the event, luckily. So hopefully some people will get it out of their system, but there are massive boat parties that go on. You have these huge party barges, these double-decker, triple-decker boats that'll be full 20, 30, 50 college kids. They're going to be lighting off fireworks. They're going to be swimming. They're going to have these massive flotation devices out there that look like, ducks and unicorns and whatever else. And those inflatable like trampolines that go on the water. It's nuts. Any cove and every cove will have boats in it, some more than others. There's a couple coves in particular that it will just be lined with hundreds of boats, sometimes on the weekends. There's a couple different events that go on in July, and I do believe one of them does line up with this. And then, of course, on Sunday, there is a junior Indiana Bass Nation. I think it's the championship or one of their major events, at least. That's going on. I know that's reserved for 150 boats. I don't believe they'll have that many, but that's going to be going on. So you're going to have practice boats out there on Friday and Saturday, plus the normal fishing traffic. It's a big spot for crappie. A lot of crappie and catfish guys go out there. It's got striper in it, so you have striper guys out there, or hybrids, the wipers, So short answer is it's going to be insane, man. The race boats, all that, you're going to see traffic if the weather's good. Let's hope the weather's not great. But if it's sunny or warm, it's going to be nuts. You can expect that the parks will be on the weekends very loaded. You're going to expect the parking lots to be difficult to navigate in the midday through the early afternoon. They actually will close them down because they'll get too backed up sometimes. If you're going to be camping, you probably have already needed to reserve something, or you should be reserving something like right now. There is limited camping. The main camping area is Paintown State Recreational Area. I looked a couple weeks ago, very limited. There's Harding Ridge Recreational Area, and there's a couple other areas, but if you want an electric site, you better be booking right now. Now, the cool thing about Monroe is it's surrounded by state forest. There's 20-some thousand or more acres of state forest surrounding Monroe. And you can literally camp right on the side of the water if you don't need power, which I love about Monroe. There's great trails and hiking. It's a beautiful place. You can literally pull up on a point, throw a tent down or a hammock, and you're good to go. But there's going to be a ton of traffic, and you're going to have to deal with that. Here's the good news, though. There's always a ton of traffic on Monroe. Always. I've never had any real issues with safety. I've had a couple guys, be jerks, but not put me in a position to be, in danger. There's a ton of kayakers out there, from fishing kayaks to just, touring kayaks, and people out there getting exercise, main lake and in the backs of the pocket. So everyone's really used to it. And of course, there is the slow water side. So if you're in a smaller craft, you're a little bit more nervous about being on big water and around boats and stuff. You do have several backwater areas and, not really backwater areas, but, the backs of these pockets and these creeks. And then you have the slow water side where it's idle only. And then there's a ton of miles of creeks that'll be available to fish up there. But the fish are used to it, man. They really are. I have been in the party coves where it's as loud as can be and catching fish, just feet away from party boats. It definitely is going to get tough as the day goes on. You're going to want to catch your fish early, but don't quit. It'll slow down, but don't quit when those party boats get out and the pleasure boats get out, because they will still bite. So.
Awesome. And that's kind of what happens. You could go to any state and pick a lake, and if it's popular like that, it's to be expected, especially midsummer. This is the time for party boats, and coming from boating and knowing that, I definitely I get you 110%. Just the biggest thing, and Sam hit it on the head, just keep your head on a swivel, watch your surroundings, but have fun while you're doing it, man. This is what it's all about,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so you want to throw anything else in about Monroe that people might want to know about the lake itself?
Yeah, so there's a couple other topics that we need to hit on real quick. There's a ton of construction going on around the main roads, leading to and coming from Lake Monroe right now, and there's more planned. So 446, which is the bridge I talked about that goes across that separates the fast and the slow water side. 446 has major construction on it, repaving going on it. 69 or 37, which is one of the main ways to get to Monroe, from north or south, has a lot of construction and stuff going on in it as well. So be prepared for some delays. Once you get to the lake, you're pretty okay. Some of the roads can be rough because they do get flooded. The lake is now at summer pool. So it came down 10 feet over the last couple weeks. It's now at summer pool. That's something that you definitely want to keep in mind when you're out there. Stuff that typically would be, if you've been out there in the spring or something like that, stuff that typically would be in the water isn't anymore. There are some areas of the lake where you've got a lot of stumps and standing timber. So for those of you that are going to be in a pedal drive or in a Hobie with a Mirage drive, you're definitely going to have to be cautious of that. Another big thing for those of you that are coming is interesting what's going on right now with oxygen levels in the lake. So I've actually got it pulled up here right now. The last report, which came out on the 13th of June, so it's a little outdated, but just to give you kind of an idea. Great oxygen levels from 0 to about 18 feet, really even 19 feet. At 20 foot, it's 6.8, and then it plummets. Last time I was out, which was last weekend, I didn't pick up a thermocline on my graph, but looking at these oxygen reports, it makes sense to me based off of where I was getting bit. So that's just something to keep in mind for you guys that are shallow or deep water fishermen, kind of understanding where that oxygen level is right now. You can get that from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers if you want to continue to watch that as you plan and prep for practice. Both the water levels are there on oxygen levels and all that. It's a pattern lake, man. It's a fun lake. It's a pattern lake. So typically whatever you find, you can follow it throughout. You can launch anywhere and follow that pattern throughout. There can be several patterns going on at any time. But one thing about this lake is you can have a killer bite in an area for 2 or 3 days straight, and then it just it's just gone and it's somewhere else. So if you're going to practice, make sure you hit multiple areas and don't be scared to jump ramps during the tournament. You may absolutely have to do that. So there's a little tip and trick for you guys. So that's the big thing, man. It's a mostly clear to slightly stained lake. With the boat traffic, it's going to stir it up a little bit. It's not going to be as clear. It's busier this year than it has been ever just because of what's going on in our world right now. A lot of people spending time outdoors, which is great. But yeah, I mean, in regards to what you need for safety and just basic fishing stuff, that's really it.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you guys are headed down for that tournament, heed the advice. I mean, this, you don't usually get this much thrown out to you. So these tips are very welcoming to those who are going. And But let's move on. Let's move on, Sam. And let's talk about a little bit of things to do off the water.
Yeah, man. I said it just a minute ago. Bloomington is my favorite area in the state. I hope to one day live on Monroe, or have a place there at least. And Bloomington is a great college town, which means it has a ton of stuff to do. If you like quiet and more scenic stuff, the parks are amazing around Bloomington and around Monroe. You've got Brown County State Park. You've got it's the Hoosier National Forest is what it is. It's just acres and acres of hiking and camping and trails, and there's all kinds of stuff. You could really make an awesome trip out of this if you want to, come early or stay late. It's really great. There's some other cool lakes in the area as well. Lake Lemon, one of those, which is a really fun little lake. But yeah, downtown life is amazing. So after the tournament, you've won some money, you placed well, you want to go celebrate, you can definitely find some stuff. Here in the state of Indiana, we are a lot more relaxed when it comes to the current situation with COVID than some of the other states.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, than some of the other states, and I know you're dealing with that, JP. And keeping politics and all of that aside and how you feel, like none of that matters, right? Like, at this point, you're just talking about what's available to you. Most restaurants and bars are now open, available seating. You can have small parties, outdoor seating and stuff like that. And Bloomington has it all. It has a great nightlife. I haven't been down there this year. I don't know what it looks like right now. Obviously, with the college kids being out of school and all that, it's probably a lot more quiet than typical. But there is so many great restaurants. Everything that you could think of, any type of cuisine you want, is available there. The ton of stuff on 3rd Street, and between 3rd and 8th Street in downtown Bloomington, there's a ton of stuff. Great places to get music and pizza and beer. You just throw up a search and you're gonna find something. It's really easy. Tons of Airbnb. So for those of you that don't like to camp or can't find camp, there's tons of Airbnb options and great pricing on all that too.
Nice. So, just like you're saying, Indiana is a lot more lax than a lot of the other states, including Illinois. I was actually just in Indiana on Monday, and it was like it didn't even exist out there. It was bad. It was like we wound up going to Maryville and Hammond, and up in North Indiana. But it was nice to actually sit down in a restaurant, eat a meal without, it brought back a little sense of normalcy. So that was very refreshing. But speaking of eating, man, give us your top 3 restaurants that you would recommend.
Okay.
Bloomington.
So first off, it's not a restaurant, but first place I'm going to recommend for everyone is the Fish and Shed. Okay. There's not a lot of places to get shade on Monroe. So when you get off the water, people are usually burnt. They have like the best sunscreen and the best afterburn lotion ever there. I don't know what it is about it. Like my wife literally makes me bring it home. It's really good. No, the Fish and Shed is great. It's been around forever. It's right off of the Paintown State Recreational Area, which is one of the major launches on Monroe. It's on 446. You can't miss it if you're going to any of the major ramps pretty much, which, is awesome. And they have everything you need. They sell live bait and all that, but they got the drinks. They got a little kitchen in there. They make the best little sandwiches and breakfast sandwiches. So you got to check out the Fish and Shed because it's right there. It's priced well. The people are awesome. Love the Fish and Shed. And then downtown Bloomington. So I can't remember the name of it, but there's like this little Indian joint that I really like. But the Bluebird is one of my favorite places to hang out. They have like great music there and live bands and stuff like that. But man, gosh, there's There's a couple pizza places downtown, and I'd have to look up the names of them. I haven't hung out down there in so long. Most of my time down there was, the college years.
Sorry
So
about that.
that's all right.
Background noise.
Yeah, so you got Brothers Bar and Grill, Kilroy's, like those typical stuff that you would see down there, which is really awesome and fun to hang out with the dudes. But yeah, there's just these little hole-in-the-wall pizza joints. I've never gone anywhere down there and had a bad experience, to be honest with you. So whatever you're in the mood for, you can definitely find it. There's some cool bagel shops that you'll have to wait in line for to get into, or at least prior to all the madness that we've got going on right now, you had to. So yeah, man, I couldn't narrow it down to just 3. It's pretty sweet. Coach's Bar and Grill is good. I remember that one. So
cool. Well, I know this next topic is very open for opinions, but is there good breweries, just for craft beer, or micro distilleries, anything within that area that you would recommend people going to?
Yeah, here in Indiana, we have quite a few micro brews and distilleries and stuff like that. I'm not very good with remembering the names of restaurants, so I'm probably not your best guest on when it comes to this stuff. I can remember what things look like and where things are, but I'm not very good with remembering names. There's a place called The Tap down there. Where is that? It's in Bloomington. It's called The Tap. I've been there a few times. It's pretty good. Upland Brewing Company is another one that comes to mind. So that's a pretty good one. But you can there's tons of them down there, man. You'll find them if you look at all. Salt Creek is a fairly familiar one too. It's pretty popular. And then not too far up, if you don't mind a little bit of a drive, in Bargersville, which is probably I want to say 45 minutes maybe from the lake, is one of my favorite places. It's called the Taxman. They have a beer called Deduction, which is like this Scottish amberish style. I don't know what it really is considered in the category sense, but it's so good. And the food's really good too, all fresh. So, yeah, man.
I've just been blessed with Northwest Indiana, and they're actually, so in Northwest Indiana, you have Three Floyds, and they have Robert the Bruce, which is a very good Scottish ale.
Yep.
And then there's a new brewery that just opened up in 2018, and we just checked out for the first time on Monday, called 18th Street Brewery up that way. And cool. Man, I'll tell you what, there was 2 that I had. One was a double IPA, and one was just like a regular. When people think of IPA, they're like, it's super heavy and bitter at the end. This was very so. Like I said, I get to get Northwest Indiana. You get to have Central and South Central Indiana. So I'm not too familiar with those out there. But if it's anything like Three Floyds up here, I'm sure it's good down that way.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. Like most of the restaurants and bars that you go to are going to have great tap options. So locally, like Sun King is very, very popular. They have what's called Wee Mac, which is a Scottish ale. They've got a cream ale that's amazing. So you got Wee Mac, you got Three Floyds, you got Taxman, which is really popular. So you're going to find a lot of that stuff on tap in any of these restaurants or bars that you go to, and they're all great.
Nice. Now, I'm not a true wine drinker, but I know Olivia's and a lot of other significant others who travel with us love going to Vineyards. Is there any wineries or vineyards in your area?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, yeah. So you've got Butler Winery, which isn't too far, Oliver, Owen Valley, which is a smaller but has great stuff. That's one of my wife's favorite. On down the way a little bit is Huckleberries, and Salt Creek is one of the wineries. You got Brown County Winery, Cedar Creek Winery. There's all kinds of them around. So,
right. Well, there's you can't hide from excuse saying there's no vineyards around here because you just listed off like 6 or 7.
Yeah, and some of those are by heart, and some of them I just pulled up because I told you I was bad with names. Mallow Run is like an hour away, but yeah, they're all over that area. So
Cool. Well, you know what? And you mentioned a lot of them in the first part, but the bars down, within downtown Bloomington. So, you know, that kind of leads into. But do you have a favorite bar in particular you like to visit while you're in Bloomington?
I mean, when I was younger, like I said, it was the Bluebird. That's where me and my buddies went, do a little dancing, watch live bands. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's mostly a live band place. Some of the upcoming country artists would come through there. They got some local cover bands that play there pretty frequently. The beer's really cheap, just your typical like little college dive bar, but great music. So that's when I was younger. Now I would want something way more low key, probably. So I would go to like the Tap House or something like that.
Cool. Now, if you have the family with you, and you had mentioned, the state parks around Lake Monroe, any other family fun activities within the area to do?
Man, yeah. So, me and my family, we're so outdoor driven. I'm so outdoor driven that like most of what I'm going to talk about is going to be around that. There are some great museums, some art galleries and stuff in downtown Bloomington that are awesome. But with all of the state recreational areas, there's some really cool activities. They have all these different programs during the summer that you can get involved in on the weekends and stuff like that. Nature walks and all these different things. You can go to the Indiana DNR website and they will list like all the events in the area, which is great. If you want to take part in some pleasure boating stuff, there are a couple of different marinas on Monroe that will rent you pontoons and boats and jet skis. And that sort of stuff. Just about anywhere on the lake you can pull up and go swimming, which is cool. Lots of hiking and trails, like I said before. So I mean, there's tons of stuff to do in Bloomington. And if you're okay with a little bit of drive, you've got like Santa Claus, Indiana, which is further south. It's a theme park there. What's it called? Holiday World, I think it's called. Yeah. I don't know if that's open or not right now. I would imagine it probably is here in the state of Indiana because we went through like this phased progress or this phased in period where they would open things up. And I think now that park is back open for rides and stuff. So
cool. Nice. And then, any last distinct things you want to throw out about the area that you feel others should know when it comes to South Central Indiana?
Well, I just to reiterate a couple things like travel. Really plan on travel and looking at routes because there's so much construction going on around the lake. Like it's really kind of bad, to be honest with you. Or at least irritating, especially for someone who's not used to traveling. Like I'm about an hour and 10 to hour and 30 minutes from the lake, any given ramp. And, so I'm kind of used to it, but if you're not used to it, it's probably going to be pretty annoying. So just be prepared for that. If you're going to be camping, you need to be reserving something now because it's going to be very limited, especially if you want electric. But there is plenty of Airbnbs. I looked the other day. There was a ton available. Hotels. There's some hotels in Bloomington as well. But yeah, that's really it, man. Like just be prepared for a lot of boat traffic, but be prepared. I mean, any cast can be a 6+ pounder out there. Earlier in the year, I was fishing one area where I actually had decent cell phone service and was able to do a go live. And I lost like an 8+ pounder at the boat in the last few minutes of the tournament. Caught several.
I do remember that.
Yeah, several 4, 5, 6 pound fish. I've caught some 7s out, or like one 7 pounder out there this year. Several 5 and 6 pounders. Even post-spawn fish were big, So that's one thing to keep in mind. Cell phone service, I'll touch on that real quick, can be very spotty off the water because the hills and the valleys and the trees. On the water, you will usually have service, though it may be not great. You'll have some service. What's interesting is, if you're on one bank and have hardly any service, you can go over to the next bank and find enough service to upload fish and check leaderboard and make calls and that sort of stuff. So you shouldn't have any problem uploading fish as long as you're willing to just go a couple minutes over to the next bank or something like that to find it. But generally anywhere on the lake, you're going to be able to find service. Depending on if you're fishing the local club stuff or not, we may or may not have a meeting afterwards. I know KBF is doing all virtual, so you don't really have to worry about making it to any location or anything like that. You just have to get off the water. Be prepared to cover water, though. I think that's going to be key for a lot of people is to actually, cover quite a distance to get away from other people and stuff. So be prepared for that. But yeah, outside of that, it's just fun. And I'm excited, man. Get signed up for it and look for the local stuff too. Grassroots Bass Yacking and Southern Indiana Yak English Club, because you have an opportunity to kind of double down. So triple, quadruple down, whatever.
Awesome. Well, guys, there you have it. Hearing it first here on Off the Water, Bloomington, Indiana, Lake Monroe. But now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, True Confessions.
True Confessions. Oh, man. I'm covering my face so I don't have to give you any signs. Oh. Hold on. Let me put a buff on. Here we go. I don't want to give away anything.
As Sam puts on his boss buff, our paddling buffs.
Okay.
Now there it is. That's it. That's the look.
I'm ready. I'll give you I'll give you my eyes just a little bit.
Tell me a story, man.
Tell you a story?
Yeah, tell me a story.
Does it have to be fishing related or non-fishing related?
Doesn't have to be fishing related.
Gosh, see, this is hard because so many of my stories.
Do I though?
Oh, maybe you don't. You don't. Let's see here. All right. I wasn't prepared. I hadn't thought of anything yet.
I gave you 56 minutes and 48 seconds.
Yeah, but you haven't been talking about other stuff, distracting me. All right. So, my first ever trip in my kayak, Bonafide SS127, right? Told you that earlier in the show. My first ever trip on that kayak, I went out and was fishing some local water near me. There's these big, huge carp, right? They're like 6 foot long carp in the lake. And it was really early in the morning. And I just caught a big fish, and I'm like all jittery, right? Like it was like a 20-incher on a frog. And I had one of these big, huge carp jump. You know how they like torpedo up out of the water?
Yep.
Torpedoes up out of the water. Scares the living daylights out of me, and I literally jumped and fell right out of the boat. I had to drag it through the weeds back over to the bank to get back in it because I was so covered in grass and moss and nasty crap. And it was pretty funny. So, and there was this like little family on the bank watching, and they didn't offer to help. They just laughed the whole time.
That's sounds too good to be true.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Everything was true but me falling out of the water.
I knew it.
Or falling out of the boat into the water. Yeah, no, scared the crap out of me. I'm still not used to it when it happens because it happens all the time on this lake. I almost fell out of the boat one time at night. That was pretty freaky. It literally like hit the boat and almost knocked me out. So I've hit them with paddles. I've hit them with my trolling motor. It's pretty fun. So, but no, it didn't fall out of the water.
A local fishing hole here where the boat launch was. So when we got all that rain, it was, it had flooded and the water level had pushed into the parking lot. And me and my buddy are literally walking through the parking lot to launch, and there's a whole school of carp just swimming by us as we're walking the kayaks down to the launch. It's kind of funny. But,
yeah, we've caught them by hand during like when it flooded back in my home in 2008. We had a big flood and they were like in the yard and stuff, and we were catching them by hand. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome. All right, you ready for yours?
Yeah, hopefully you're better at telling stories than I am because I'm terrible at it, man. Like if I didn't have that buff on, there is no way anyone would have believed anything I was saying.
Well,
no poker face.
Right. So this was 2019, so this was last year. Me and Olivia had we were going to Nashville, so the way we take it is I-65 all the way south.
Right.
And we got actually right around just south of Indianapolis. There was construction, and then there happened to be an accident in the construction zone. And we're sitting, we're waiting, and it's standstill. There's no traffic moving. And out of the corner of my eye, I see like an animal running. I'm like, what the hell? I turn around. There's two more behind it. There was a tractor trailer that was carrying goats. And the goats got out of the trailer and were running around the interstate down I-65. And I couldn't help but just keep laughing because it was so sight to see. I'm like, where did all these goats come from? And then you see the driver of the semi trying to corral them back into the trailer. There's a lot of shit you see on the road, but that was one that was well worth it.
Man, so let's see. It's believable because I-65 and the 70 corridor coming together in Indianapolis, 465 is just known for crazy stuff happening all the time. Traffic being bad, tankers blowing up. I can remember a time where cows came free.
Yep, cows. Cows are quite common, actually.
I don't remember ever hearing about goats being on the highway, though. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was true, so I'm going to go with true.
You're absolutely right. That is a true story. Yeah, there was only like 4 goats that got out. But it was funny watching this big old truck driver trying to corral a bunch of goats back into the trailer. Yeah, that's a first. Now we've had an accident here in Illinois when I was on the ambulance where cows were actually coming off the bridge, but like they were walking down the embankment when there's an accident. So it's funny when livestock figures out how to undo the latch for the trailers and then they just start roaming the highway.
Yeah, man, it's always hilarious. I was on my way to work one day. We had a dog on 465, and people were stopping and trying to get this dog, and there's just 15 people chasing this dog all over 465, and traffic zooming by. It was really unsafe. Nobody should have ever stopped, but there's so many stories, man, in that area that it's hard to. It would take you 5 podcasts just to talk about a quarter of them that happened.
Well, we're winding down here, Sam. Real quick, I just want to throw out to everybody, what is it, 3 more rounds left. 3 more rounds. for our paddle and fin angler of the pod.
Two rounds. So we got the final matchup of the losers bracket, which is going to be Josh Smith, Susie Roloff, and myself.
Yep.
We are trying to figure out a date and time for that. We'll announce that as soon as we have that. We got 4th of July coming up. It's not going to happen this weekend. And then 4th of July next weekend, probably not going to happen that. So possibly the weekend after, but we will announce that. Dustin climbed his way through the ranks of the championship bracket. So he's our champion. And then we'll have our top loser, which again will be between Josh, Susie, and myself. The winner of that will go on to face Dustin for the Angler of the Pod title. Gonna be exciting. It's gonna be tough to beat Susie. If Susie gets to fish her little sweet spot, I found a spot that I like, that I might have enough signal. That's been my problem, man. Here in Indiana, we don't have a lot of fisheries that have great signal for live, because you need decent signal. And we just don't have that. And I know it's been a problem for others too.
Oh yeah.
And then of course you got Josh Smith, who's a great angler out there in the Northeast. It's going to be a fun matchup. I'm definitely excited for it. I'd love the opportunity to face off against Dustin and have this good old Indiana boy beat Texas. But, we'll see. I got to worry about this first matchup first, and I got to take out a couple hammers in order to get there. So.
Well, and what's unique about this one is, and that's where my confusion came in, so I apologize, but it is a three-way. It's a three-way match.
Yeah, it's a three-way.
Usually we were doing, multiple one-on-ones, but this is the first three-way we're having within our little bracket itself. So it's going to be exciting to watch. Yeah. So, guys, keep an eye out for the date, and you don't want to miss this.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun.
All right. Well, Sam, you want to give a shout out to anybody, your sponsors, people who have your back, those who are important, who need to be heard and recognized.
Yeah, I have a lot of great supporters and a lot of great sponsors and companies that I work with, and I don't want to sound like a NASCAR driver and go through there. They all know how much I appreciate them. And if you follow me on social media at all, you know who those great people are. I definitely want to say thank you to everyone who reaches out to me though. I've got a ton of great support that I get from other anglers and people who are following the industry and following me on social media. And that means so much to me to know that I'm doing anything that helps benefit someone else. Had a guy today commented on a post that I made about swim jigs, saying he went out and tried it and caught a big fish, and that's the stuff that really matters to me. So thanks for all those people. Thanks to you, JP, for having me on the episode, get me back in the swing of things here. It's been a little while since I've been off the reel down. So love our crew here. But yeah, I just want to again please, if you're planning on coming down and fishing, check out, Southern Indiana Yak Anglers Club. It's one of our local groups here in Indiana. Do an awesome job running tournaments and giving away prizes and all that. Their tournament's already up and loaded on TourneyX. You can find that. Just search SIYAK or just search Monroe, and it's gonna pop up with the KBF Trail events. Grassroots Bass Yakking, they'll be putting their tournament up any minute, any day. As well. What's unique about them is you pick your day. You can pick Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday to fish that event, but there's only 14 slots per day. So when that goes up, if you want to fish Saturday or Sunday or any of those days, you want to get on there and sign up quick for those events. So support the local groups here in Indiana. SIYAK is the presenting club for this event, so they've been doing a ton of work. Matt Kiefer is the tournament director, and he's been doing a lot to get this thing up and running. So please check out those folks if you're coming down. And other than that, man, I just hope everybody enjoys this lake as much as I do. It's one of my favorite places, and I look forward to seeing everyone. If you see me on the water, don't be afraid to come say hi. It won't bother me at all. I know some people do, but I'd love to talk to you and chat with you and help you out in any way that I can. So, yeah, that's it, man.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me those tips and tricks about Lake Monroe. And for everybody listening, next month, July 18th and 19th, it's the KBF and the local clubs for Indiana SIAC and the grassroots
Bass Yacking.
and Bass Yacking.
Yep.
And then don't forget, if you see him out there in the Bassin van,
The Bassin Van. Yeah, give me a honk. Absolutely. Follow it at the Bassin Van, and you can follow me at Jones Into Fish. All my socials are at Jones Into Fish, Facebook, Instagram, all that. So easy to find.
Nice. All right, Sam. Well, that's gonna do it. And then just want to give a couple shout outs to our show sponsors. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayaks, Hammered Lures, TRC Fish Bob Lures, JigMasters Jigs, Angler, and Yak Attack for giving us the opportunity to do the tournament for Angler of the Pod. And guys, if you have any questions about any one of our guests on our shows, please feel free to reach out to us and reach out to their handles on their social media. They'll be more than happy to help. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Off the Water. We'll see you next time.